Graphics look pretty great today, but that's also what we thought 20 years ago. And now some of those things look terrible. Even though we love some of these cutscenes, these are ones that have aged less gracefully than most. So the first Resident Evil had some really impressive cutscenes, but then Capcom was going to up their game even more with Resident Evil 2. The intro, you know, has this very cinematic kind of style to it, of like the camera going down with Leon's car driving into the city and seeing the empty streets and all these zombies start appearing.
Very spooky.
Very spooky, but now looking at it, like they do look like just like plastic dolls walking around, like cardboard. It's the buildings, really. If you look at the buildings, they just have so little detail on them.
I just love how back then zombies were not, you know, everywhere in pop culture. So when that guy's like, "Why'd he bite me?" It's like, because he's a zombie, you idiot. So Blizzard has always been known, they've made a name for themselves as cinematic masters in video games. And StarCraft back in the day blew my mind because it looked like, you know, there's this dude in a spaceship, he's reporting back in what he's seeing. And then all of a sudden he gets attacked by Protoss. It's super flashy, at least at the time, but when you watch it now, the millisecond they show the guy's face, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, human skin is one of the things that CGI like ages the fastest, I would say. Like pretty much all textures, you know, they can look bad over time, but like just the human, we know what skin looks like, and so when it's just like painted on plasticky stuff, it looks bad. I think they tried to hide it as best they could with those fisheye lens shots.
Yeah, those are pretty nice. He also
those are pretty dated though too. I mean, that makes it look like it's a '90s rap video.
Skateboard.
Or skateboard video, yeah.
And his facial motions are very animatronic-like. But the part I love most is when the spaceship explodes. You basically see like the polygons themselves as they're flying through space, like the triangles spinning around. It's great.
I had been looking forward to a Spider-Man movie my entire life, and it did not disappoint me back in 2002, and neither did the game back then as well, and it had this amazing like cutscene that in my mind looked just like the film. Like, oh my god, they captured the film perfectly. Activision did it. Like, Spider-Man is moving just like he does in the movie. It's so cool.
Nowadays, it looks like they put a pole through Spider-Man's ribcage and then just had him spinning on that one axis.
I know, there's just there's no gravity, there's no weight to him at all, it's just spinning around. I mean, that's a problem in the film as well, but I think occasionally in the film, like, you get this real, like, lack of reality in it, but even more so here. And then there's the fact that, like, they paid to have Tobey Maguire's likeness in the game, but it barely looks like him. Like, I don't know why they paid, because it's just like off. Like, and I think there's this one shot that's supposed to be like the master shot of like him on the Statue of Liberty and the camera panning around, but it just, oof, it looks so static and just.
I also love how they reuse the same shot of the Green Goblin flying over Spidey and then him webbing him twice in the same opening cinematic. Seems like a bad call to me. We're not saying that the Command & Conquer cutscenes were meant to be super serious, you know, because they were always kind of corny. But back in the day, it was like you took the amazing vehicles and jets and all these crazy contraptions along with the corny FMV, and it looked so good. Well,
and just cutting between them, like it was at a time when you thought, like, video games can be movies, and by that we mean a movie will be in a video game, and the acting and filming looked just as good. When it really doesn't. Like the actor who played Kane, like, he's doing his best. He's not a bad actor. But then just the cuts between it, like, it's hard to tell what's worse, like the bad blue screen dialogue, or then the shots of the units fighting, and like, but you built it up in your head because just playing the RTS, you're seeing from a distance all these fights. You always imagined, oh, what do they look like up close?
Yeah, it's like this is what every fight looks like. But nowadays, you can find that in any RTS.
Now this is one that everybody's heard of, but spoilers, I guess, if you've still yet to play Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII has all these crazy cutscenes in it that were Squaresoft really showing off what they could do on a 32-bit console, when really they're just CG they made and it's a movie file they're playing. And the one movie file that like used to, like people said made them cry was Aeris's death. Like when she is praying, looks at Cloud, and then down comes Sephiroth with his sword, stab.
He falls for a really long time.
He just really like, it is more like just a statue just being like lowered like this. And it's hard to tell what's like cinematic slow motion and then just what like animation, what limited animation they had to work with. And then you add into that water, which like, that's still hard to get right now.
I also love how the faces are just, you know, like the single image, and then that moves instead of like it being, you know, an actual polygon.
Mm-hmm. Well, they spent all their money on you know, Sephiroth's shirtless scene.
Pretty much every single cutscene in Tekken 1, the endings particularly, is just so hilarious to watch nowadays.
They're wonderful.
Especially the one that opens it all up of Kazuya, like not throwing Heihachi up the mountain, just sort of lowering his arms and the body sliding out of them. Then that grin he gives the camera is too good.
I know. Well, and just him walking over the grass. It's more like they just move the grass texture as he walked in place.
When people walk around, they look like mechs, basically, because they're moving like...
Yeah, and that works for Jack, but not every other character. It's also very noticeable that they can't move their hands. Like, they just all just like are gesticulating with closed fists. I think the craziest one is Yoshimitsu, because he's, you know, riding through town, giving out all the money he won in the King of Iron Fist tournament, and the reactions on the people's faces, like they were told, like, be shocked, like...
That guy's jaw is about to just rip out of his face.
Unhinged. Like, they improved it some in 2, and now, like, and...
They're masters of it now.
Yeah, yeah, they are masters of it now. The Tekken game is important because it set the tone of, like, okay, from now on, you get a cutscene when you beat the game with a dude.
That's the
only
reward.
20 seconds long, and but to think that they started here, like they had so far to go. Nintendo spent the N64 era with pretty much no CG visuals. Like all their stuff was in-game models. So when the GameCube era came, they were finally able to do some CG stuff. They really want to show off what they could do on the new system, which they did in 2000 with a teaser of a Pokemon game that never came out, Luigi's Mansion, and then the Piece de Resistance, the Zelda one. And like the Zelda one, I know blew, like, everybody went crazy for it online. They're like, this is what Zelda will be. It's why people got so mad about Wind Waker when it came out, because they thought Zelda would be that. And now when you look at what Zelda is now, like, it's hard to imagine we ever, like, our standards were so low.
Ganondorf's face alone just is so funny looking. Mm-hmm. He looks like a troll.
I think it at least works better with the kind of cartoony dudes like Luigi, like when he looks awkward with like his scared face in those things with like jaw going down.
His face is melting. Basically.
Yeah, his face is melting. At least it kind of fits with the cartoony dude, and he's like not even half that expressive in the final game. But yeah, it's just, it all looks so crazy, and the GameCube would do better by the time it came out. By the time the system launched, they had better looking stuff than that. So those are our beloved relics from the past that now look like garbage. If you have ones you want to tell us about, or if you have ones you love now that you think will look pretty bad in 2025, tell us all about them in the comments down below.
That was a pretty sweet video, right? If you want to see more, go to Games Radar's YouTube page over here. Or if you want to read, maybe up your game a little bit, go to GamesRadar.com.